Bees only thrive when they know their role in the hive, when they're aligned with who they are, not who they're pretending to be. Burnout happens when we forget that, when we push past our limits and lose sight of our identity in the process. Today's episode with Nelandra is a gentle reminder to return to yourself, to your body, to your truth. If you're listening today, whether you're energized, exhausted, or somewhere in between, this one is for you. Every bee serves the hive, not itself. Every role, no matter how small, sustains the whole. Here, former and present journalists gather like bees, drawn to what's raw, real, and sweet. Each story is a drop of nectar, gathered from the wild fields of experience, spun into something golden. From the sting of truth to the sweetness of healing, this is where we build the hive. Bees don't question their purpose, they simply build. They gather light from the broken things, turn it to sweetness, and leave the world better than they found it. We do the same. One story, one truth, one drop of honey at a time. This is the Honey Pod, where words heal, hearts rebuild, and purpose buzzes loud. The Honey Pod is brought to you by Medrala Law Firm, your legal team for life's unexpected stings, and by True Core Wellness, helping you heal from the inside out. Together, they keep our hive strong. Hey honeys, welcome to the Honey Pod. I'm your host, Paulina, and today we are joined with Nelandra Anselmo. Nelandra, we know each other because we've done some personal work together.
Yeah.
I brought you on because you are both sponsoring part of this, and so you're going to be helping all of us journalists and those who are news adjacent kind of navigate the ups and downs of journalism. How did you get into your profession? Let's kind of warm the crowd up and tell them who you are.
If anybody knows me, then they are not surprised that I do what I do. I'm the oldest of 4 kids.
Okay.
The only girl.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a tough household.
Yeah. So depending on your background, your upbringing, there's some expectations that go along with being the oldest girl. Right?
Sure.
I've been supporting other people for as long as I can remember. For as long as I've known people, I've been supporting people.
I think that goes with the oldest child syndrome.
Yeah.
Truly, because it's the same in my house. Like, we came from an immigrant household, so I'm the oldest. A lot of the responsibility fell on me.
Yeah.
My brother is now taking a lot of it over, thank goodness.
Thank
But
goodness. They learn. Eventually, they grow up.
He's incredible, my brother. But I think also in the process, it's just we've all taken on different responsibilities in life. You grew up. I'm sure you're still helping family, but now you're helping others as well.
Let's see. I started out, here's the idea. I really wanted to be in media. I wanted to do what you do. It's true. I'm in, college, starting college, my undergrad, and my real thought, this is the truth. I was like, Oprah is going to retire one day.
We all want to be Oprah.
Yeah.
It's true.
No, but here's, 19 years old. I'm like, so when she does, I'll just make sure I'm ready. I'll just step right in.
Yeah.
But I think really, Paulina, I think it was that I wanted to be able to help people in a specific way without having to go to school for 8 years in a row. So I was like, okay, I'll go for 4. Right. And I went ahead and bit the bullet eventually. Like by the time I got, into my 30s when I went, and earned the master's degree so I could start my private practice. But, it's just kind of something that I have always wanted to do. And so sitting here is really cute for me because...
Well, welcome to my side of the couch, because generally it's the opposite. It's me, on your couch and you advising me on what to do. And so...
Sure. Well, helping you come to your own conclusions.
Yes, on how to navigate my own life.
Sure.
And the woes of life and truly everything that comes with it.
Yeah, so fast forward, I am, obviously a therapist.
Sure.
I'm a relationship therapist, but also I do a lot of work with individuals. I'm an educator. I'm a coach. I pick up a speaking engagement here and there. And so I have done all that through this, kind of journey in this town in Las Vegas of, being in hospitality. And so I worked in human resources for hotels and gaming. Still a professional helper, still somebody trying to make sure that everybody wins, still somebody trying to help develop people. And so I think, sometimes we're just born into our profession, into our career. And I think that's the case for a lot of people.
Before you got into this profession, you had a whole life that, like you
Yeah.
said, you were HR, you had all these different roles.
Hmm.
And somehow all those roles, I know that in myself, when I look back at my life going, I was a bartender and I was a waitress and a
Hmm.
hostess and this and this.
Hmm.
And all these things are like hair, makeup, you think that they don't go together. And somehow they have all created the being that I am today.
Yeah.
And without them, I don't know that I would be who I am, or I would have done the news industry as well as I did, you know? And so
Yeah.
it's interesting to hear you say that. Talk to me about the transition from your last jobs to what you're doing now, though.
I end up in private practice because after all these years of helping people with a company, like a corporate type structure, I thought, I am still not helping people the way that I want to be.
Mhm.
People would be like, I can't get to work because I'm fighting with my partner. I can't get to work because my kid is, in
Yeah,
trouble at school and I have to go. I can't get to work because I have OCD and I can't get out of the house, right? And my answer to all of that was, I can't help you with that. I just need you to get to work. Here's a card, here's a number to call. And then one day I was like, wait a minute. Like I can help people with that,
right.
And so I ended up, yeah, just kind of starting my second career. And I still help people in workplaces.
You do,
I
because I
do.
mean, this is literally, I'm listening to you speak about HR and I'm going, oh my goodness, you should see the HR in news.
Yeah. No, yeah, but
Right?
as a consultant, like I don't just have my private practice. I do a lot of other stuff.
Right.
But as a consultant, all I do is bring what I know from my work with in relationships, whether it's couples, families, I bring that into the workplace. If you're not getting along well with a coworker, guess what? That's a relationship. And
Right.
guess what? I can help with that. And so I end up doing that. And for a lot of clients in town, I go in and just do some of the same things I do in my office, in my therapy office.
You went back for your master's. You're actually still in school now to get your doctorate.
Yeah.
And so
So
talk to me about that.
I'm toward the end of that. Because again, with this doctoral degree, I just want to continue to support counselors, therapists in training. I want to make sure that they have the information and knowledge that is up to date, that we can, do some real good in our practice.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. It's funny because you said you went from not wanting to be in school for so long and now
Yes.
going back.
How funny is that? And my dad was a teacher. My dad
Okay.
was a teacher, and
So that's
so
probably why also
and
you're
I always
like,
and I didn't want to, because okay, think about when you think about teachers,
uh,
like, they work sometimes in the summertime, even though they're supposed to have summers off, my dad was working,
always.
he had me grading papers for him when I was such a young kid, like, I was always around it, but I just knew that, it was important. My dad's passed now, but he put a really big emphasis on education, I think it just stuck with me, and so now I teach at the university here. I teach at the hospitality school
That's
here, and
awesome.
so it really is part of what I do. And this PhD program is in counselor education and supervision.
Wow.
Yeah,
Why counselor and supervision?
I think it's just an extension of education.
Okay.
The supervision part makes sure that when people are new to the profession, when they're therapists and counselors in training, that they have really good support as they're working toward earning their license. They're seeing clients and they just need to have sometimes a little extra, just another person to bounce things off of,
Yeah,
somebody to help make sure that things are being done in a way that is ethical. Yeah, and I just like helping people to be the best helpers that they can be.
I love that.
Yeah.
So you came recommended to me through a client and you talk about relationships, right?
Yeah.
That's something that I'm really learning. I think as a business owner now, as an entrepreneur, it's a very different kind of relationship that you need to encounter with people versus when I was a journalist. In this last year and a half, with a lot of the things that are happening with news, people getting laid off, people leaving the industry, people trying to navigate the industry as a whole, it's become a lot. And so I know mental health, whether it's personal or non-personal,
Yeah.
has become the forefront of a lot of these conversations.
And it's not anything different than everybody knows already. We know to take care of ourselves.
Mm,
We know to make sure that we unplug when we can. Make sure that you have something that you're doing that brings you joy outside of that newsroom, because it's heavy in there
yeah,
and it's intense, and it's easy to get sucked into that intensity, I think. And a lot of us are defined by our jobs, it's our identities.
it is.
And I think we've talked about this before. It's your identity, and you want to do a good job, and you want to make sure that you, aren't, don't drift too far from really what's going on. You have to be right in it all the time in it. And that can be draining. And so, where's the line, especially when there's pressure in a lot of places to always be turned on, plugged in, make sure that you don't miss anything. We could talk all day about hustle culture and, how a lot of workplaces glamorize
That's
not,
definitely the newsroom.
yeah, glamorize not taking a break. Like, oh, I didn't sleep last night, or I forgot to eat, or right. And then people celebrating that. That's not a cause for celebration. That is, a recipe for disaster, actually. And so sometimes we have to kind of shift our perspective, the way that we're looking at things. And it's hard to do that when everyone around you is doing something else.
Right.
Right. And so, it's not a new message. Take care of yourself. Make sure that you zoom out and put some distance between you and what's going on. You can still keep your finger on it without being in it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes and no. I think I go back to 2020 when I was living in Kentucky and we were at the height of COVID. We were at the height of Breonna Taylor protests.
Yeah.
And I mean, there wasn't a moment where it shut off. I think
Yeah.
truly it would only go off when you would go to sleep. And then you'd wake up at 6 a.m. just to put the news back on. You're going back to work and
Yep.
you're soaking it in, you're leaving. And then you're watching, you leave the 6 o'clock newscast only to watch the 7 o'clock news till all the way to 9 o'clock, 10
Yeah.
o'clock, because you need to know what's
You
going
need
on.
to know what's going on.
And so I feel that way right now and the heaviness of what's happening in our country right now, because that's exactly what's happening in these newsrooms. I'm not there, but I feel it from my friends. I feel
Yeah.
like I feel the burnout just through talking to them. I hear it in their voices. And I feel it as a consumer of
Yeah.
news, but I'm so lucky that I can say, bye guys.
I'm going to take a break.
I can take a break. And so my heart goes out to everybody in the industry because I know that they
Who
can't.
can't take a break.
Right.
I'll tell you what, though. Here's the kind of break you can take. And this is something that people don't a lot of times think about. Okay, so in a couple minutes ago, I said zoom out.
Mhm.
How about get really micro with it then? And so, how about mindfulness? When you're in it, when you're in the center of it, you can still take, even if it's for 30 seconds or a minute, you can take just a moment of mindfulness to just center yourself, be in the present moment, engage all of your senses, ground yourself so that you can understand that you don't have to be caught up in whatever it is that's going on. I think of it like a roller coaster ride or something, right? Like,
Yeah, it's like
there's
a
a ride.
circus roller coaster.
You can either be on it or you can be on the ground, still observing it, still witnessing it, still seeing what's happening from minute to minute, but you're not getting motion sick because you're on the ground. Like, I like to say, I'll meet you at the exit. I'll hold the purses. And I'm fine because I can see everything that's going on. But when it's all over, I'm not sick and nauseous. I'm not dizzy. I'm not disoriented because I've been here the whole time.
So, Nelandra, one of the things that you also had brought up was identity.
Yeah.
And how newsrooms become an identity or how we can so easily lose our identity in a newsroom.
Yeah.
I think for us, we spend so much time as journalists trying to separate what our own feelings are or our own biases are.
Yeah.
Versus kind of what we need to be saying or what we need to be, what the story is. But that also takes a toll on people. And then we have a lot of people who are leaving the industry like I did and who I'm very happy to have left, but it came with a lot of things, like it came with partially an identity crisis, kind of like, okay, I'm a business owner and I like it, but I don't feel as fulfilled in this part, but I feel more fulfilled on this part. And it's kind of navigating this new life that you're kind of living.
And I think when I have conversations with people about this, we talk a lot about, starting with your values, thinking about the things that are most important to you, because I think if you get that down, then you can understand your compass, basically. Once you understand your values, then you can know what you are okay with, what you're not okay with, how you're going to spend your time, how you're going to spend your energy, how you're going to spend your money, who you're going to spend your time with. Your values guide everything.
Yeah.
And so, for example, if I say I value education, for example, I value knowledge, or I value learning, people are going to see that in everything that I do. And it helps you to kind of stay in touch with your identity. It's who I am. It's what I'm about.
For those of us in the industry who are having a hard time navigating that, how do we stay true to those core beliefs, whether it's in the newsroom or out of the newsroom?
First of all, I'll tell you that for some people, it's easier than for other people.
Okay.
And it has to do a lot with our personalities.
Uh-huh.
It has to do with kind of how we show up in general in the world. Some of us have, I like to say, the volume is turned way up on their empathy, like their, empathy.
They're talking to me.
Their empathy knob is turned like all the way to the
I
right.
need to bring it all the way down sometimes.
Yeah, and for some people, not as much. And neither one of these is better or worse. It's just kind of a different way of showing up. And I will say that for people whose empathy knob is turned way up, it's easy for you to kind of absorb these things. And so being able to manage it, sure, for some people it comes factory installed. You just kind of are who you are, but it is also a skill that you can learn. And I think that's what's important is it is a skill. Learning boundaries you can learn to, like you said, separate yourself,
I
maintain
don't
your identity.
I'm gonna have
We'll
to
talk more about it.
we
I mean,
need to
we'll
we
talk more
really need to
about it.
talk about this
Yeah.
because I think and I'm not gonna speak for everybody, but I definitely know that boundaries in a newsroom are not a thing. Like you try to install boundaries, whether it's with someone or you're like, I'm gonna take this day off, or they'll call. But are you dead?
Yeah.
Are you like that's not even a thing.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we'll give you a day off 4 days from now, and you've already worked 16 days in a row.
Yeah.
Like,
We're talking about workplace
there's
culture.
no boundaries
Yeah.
there. It's so much more than just the story. It's
Yeah.
like it's the people, it's the managers, it's like critique on your own body. It's like thing after thing after thing, right?
That makes you feel like you don't belong to
anywhere.
you.
Yeah.
Like you don't belong to you,
Right.
right? So everybody thinks that they are entitled to, like you said, have a piece of you. And it feels like your body's not yours.
It's not.
Yeah. And really the only thing that you have, like you said, is your mind and your values
Mm-hmm.
and the things that you know make you you because all the rest of the time, every day, yeah, it just seems like you have to share to give
Mm-hmm.
away parts of you.
There are parts of yourself that you lose, even with the core values that you have. And I think that that's been for myself in particular. And I'm sure if you start, you'll hear some of these stories that we share on here. Everybody seems to share that same journey of who am I when the news stops and those
Yeah.
cameras are off. And then now I'm no longer a journalist. I'm no longer doing this. Who am I? Right? Like, what does that look like? What are my values again?
Yeah, well, and you make a good point. Then also you make decisions about what am I willing to
Endure.
speak up about? Also, what am I willing to share? What parts of myself am I willing to share, even if it represents a risk? And I think that's what a lot of people right now are trying to determine is do you speak up or do you remain silent?
Yeah.
When you really are being true to your values, you will take certain risks for the ones that you hold the highest, regardless of whether somebody wants you to say or do things or not. Sometimes we take that risk.
I'm definitely in a better space right now where I do have more freedom to speak my mind. Even with clients, I have the autonomy over my own business, who I want to bring on, who I don't want to work with.
Yeah.
I can set a boundary with a client that at midnight you're not going to call me.
Mhm.
I know that in the news industry it was fine if you wanted to call me at 2 a.m,
Sure.
at 1 a.m. That is not the industry I'm in right now. I can say I work from 6 a.m. to this time. Those are my hours.
Yeah.
You
And
can
I
meet
won't
me
answer
there.
outside of those hours.
Yeah. But that's a hard one. That's a hard one for us in news because we're so used to people like bulldozing our boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
So to set them yourself, it's scary.
Yeah.
And then to try and find your own voice, it's also equally as scary, and to try and navigate who you are. And so the podcast really came about because for me, the sheer amount of people who are leaving the industry, it's just mind blowing. We've had newsrooms close down overnight. There's more cuts coming, and this is happening in every single newsroom I've worked in so far. And across the board, people are looking to make that transition, but people who've made this their identity in journalism, it's like it came before me. Like it walked in the room before I walked in the room, frankly, like there was a presence, the camera was there, this was there. People had a different tone versus like if I walk in with my jeans right now, people aren't going to stop the same way, know. They'll stop maybe for a different reason, but it's not because I'm there with a camera and a mic and I look like I'm there for a different purpose. So
Yeah.
there is that identity crisis that you go through leaving one to the next.
Yeah, and transition is hard regardless. Whether it's career transition or any other change, it's hard to navigate all that stuff anyway. You feel vulnerable, you feel uncomfortable, you feel disoriented, all the things. Even if it's a positive change,
Sure.
there still represents some discomfort. Nobody likes changing anything, even if you know that you're going to do your own thing,
Yeah.
it's
I
hard.
I used to think that I was so because you in the news industry you change cities every 2 years,
Sure.
so you're constantly the new guy, you're constantly trying to adapt to something new, a different city, and everybody's got a different life and a different form in
Mhm.
this country. The U.S. is a really unique place if you start to live in it and,
Sure.
and get to know people. It's isolating in very many ways,
Yeah.
but I would like to think that we're very quick to adapt because we have to adapt.
You have to.
But we're also seeing prolonged effects of us in the news industry seeing these scenes that the audience doesn't necessarily get to see. Like,
Yeah, and you get so used to
right,
seeing just like a first responder
right.
or anybody else who is exposed to that stuff. But a lot of other people get support for that.
Mhm,
Fire, police, EMTs, like they get support for that.
mhm.
A journalist doesn't necessarily,
No.
right?
I think some of the stations have started to implement that, but
Good.
I know that after the UNLV shooting, they did bring in mental health professionals, but they were only there during the time when all the reporters were out on story.
Of course.
So it's like the people who are out there who are needing the help to actually talk to people
Right.
didn't get the help. How do we navigate that?
It is hard to find someone who can really help you navigate some of these things. And like you said, I think it's great that a lot of workplaces, a lot of employers are, kind of catching on. Some have caught on for uh they've been there already. Like they've known the importance of providing support for people that, that they work with. But I'm glad that other stations are starting to do that. But like you said, if everybody's out on a story when the help is there. And so, and we talked before about workplace culture. It's about a culture. So if it's not a part of your culture, you're gonna bring someone in when everybody's not there and be like, okay, I did it and check off that box. If it is part of your culture to take care of people, if it is part of your culture to make sure that people know where to get whenever they need it, then it's going to be there. Sure. Then it's going to be there. So, is it that you're checking off a box or is it that this is how you take care of folks every day?
And I'm sure people in the industry that they've been in newsrooms that are very progressive and do help, and this is part of their culture. So I don't want to nix all newsrooms.
Yeah.
But I've seen it where it's been kind of like added, like a check it off the box kind of thing, and then ones who have tried to truly implement it. Now was it successful? I don't know. But they at least have tried. When we're dealing with this, what are the effects of prolonged exposure to some of these really traumatic scenes that we're seeing?
In a lot of ways, especially for your brain and your body, you may as well have had that thing happen to you directly. So vicarious trauma is trauma. It's still trauma. Sometimes your brain and your body don't even know the difference between you hearing about it or, hearing about it secondhand or, seeing it on your footage or whatever it is. Sometimes your brain and your body don't know the difference. They don't know that it didn't actually happen to you. And so that means you are experiencing and re experiencing traumatic events constantly. Re-experiencing is one of the primary features of, when you get diagnosed with PTSD,
Hmm.
is this idea of re-experiencing. So when people have nightmares, flashbacks, things like that, that is one of the things that defines post-traumatic stress. For you, even if the event didn't happen to you directly, you're experiencing that re-experiencing through rewatching footage, telling the story over and over
Hmm.
again. And so, like you said, you need to find a good mental health professional because the long-term effects are that you're going to have every symptom that someone who experienced this thing can. You're going to have those symptoms. You're not going to be able to sleep. You're going to have a heightened, elevated mood. You're going to be irritable. You're going to be hypervigilant. You're going to be scared, worried, on edge, tense, waiting for the next shoe to drop. You are going to start avoiding things. For someone who's in a profession where you have to constantly be looking for a story or looking to, engage with whatever this thing is, part of you is saying, don't go anywhere near it.
At what point can we tell if we are experiencing burnout? That is one of the number one reasons why people have been leaving the newsroom right now. How do you avoid burnout and PTSD? At what points can you say, like, okay, I'm experiencing something and it's time to either take a break or go see a mental health professional?
Funny thing is, Paulina, somebody else is going to tell you before you realize it yourself.
Mm.
Pretty much that's how it happens. You're going to have somebody go, hey, what's going on with you? You don't seem like yourself. Are you okay? Maybe you should take a break. Maybe you need to, right? It's not you going, hey, I better slow it down a bit.
Yeah.
It's not usually how it goes. Somebody's going to tell you before you realize it. But I'll tell you what, the thing that will probably make the light bulb go off for you is this feeling of indifference, this feeling of apathy. Like I just kind of don't care. And it's funny because you said that's the thing that makes you a good journalist. That's the thing that is characteristic of people who, right, cover these stories. They just care so deeply. So I'll tell you what, that's going to be the first red flag is that you start to shrug and you go, I don't know if it matters to me anymore.
And that's a scary thing to kind of experience. The only way that I know how to explain it, it's almost like when I left the industry, I was constantly going in overdrive. You're taking in so many things and so much content and so many bad stories
Yeah.
that I didn't realize how much of my own stuff I never processed from like my own life and,
Yeah.
and problems. And all of a sudden, my head wasn't busy with other people's problems. My head became very busy with my problems. And
Yeah.
it was almost like a withdrawal from news, withdrawal from my life, and then trying to understand. I felt crazy. And a lot of us do. Like the more people I've spoken to on this podcast, it's like a train coming at you and you're like, what just happened? I don't even know how to explain it. Like I said, it's almost like a withdrawal. It's like
Finally,
like,
finally just kind of comes to a head. And so remember when I said when you are observing this stuff, sometimes your brain doesn't realize that it's not actually happening to you.
Sure.
So what if you had, some trauma? We all have traumatic experiences. We all have difficulties in our past. What if, like you said, you hadn't finished really processing that stuff, working through that stuff, and then all this other stuff starts happening to you, right? So you're thinking about it as all this other stuff is happening to these people, and I'm covering it.
Mhm.
But there's, maybe a part of your brain that's going, man, all this stuff is happening to me.
Yeah.
And anybody, I don't care how good they are at anything, is
Yeah.
going to hit their limit. At some point, they're going to hit their limit. And so it's possible that something like that happened to you.
I'll go with Las Vegas most recently. I think it was November, October of 2023. And it was a month of covering domestic violence situations.
Yeah.
I mean, it was back to back to back to back. That was the only thing I was covering. And I come from a domestic violence situation in my marriage. And so I don't know that I've processed everything there, or I thought I processed. At some point, I think it was like 3 weeks in, I went to the managers and said, if I have another story that's mental health, that I have to speak to another woman who's been battered or another family who's lost a loved one to domestic violence, I will lose it in the newsroom. Like I don't have the capacity to take on another story like this.
Yeah.
Because it rubs up against your own wounds and it rubs up against
Yeah.
I don't know how else to help because and that's the other thing, like you said about you being in HR and you're like, I'm intaking all these stories, but how the hell am I helping?
How can I help you? Sure.
Right.
Sure.
Because it's like, I mean, I'm here telling the story, but if the public's not listening and the women are not getting the support they need anyways, then all I'm doing is just flashing a light and a camera at somebody's face.
And so your job as a journalist is a lot of times way more than being a journalist. You have, like you said, a responsibility to your community, a responsibility to the people whose stories you're covering, to help connect them with resources in the community, to help them understand what happens next. And nobody said that you can't do that or shouldn't do that. And so what I say is do that. Make sure that you understand how people can get, what they need, even if you're not the one to give it to them.
I'm happy that after my 30s, my 30s were glorious. Like I think that was like
Good
the
for you.
turning point. That was like the turning point for my news my news career, because I think up in like my 20s, you just want to do it, right? So when they tell you to bend over and they're like, you're going to be like, cool, how much and how hard, like you don't care. You will do whatever they tell you, right? They tell you to jump, you're going to go jump into this levee that breached and do okay, cool, I'm there. I will swim through it if I need to.
Sure.
In my 30s, you get to say, that is not safe, first of all.
Yeah.
I will not be taking my life on a risk like that for $40,000 a year.
Yeah.
And two, there were things that I started to be more vocal about that I don't think in my 20s I would have ever felt comfortable about.
Your boundaries show up. Your boundaries show up.
Well, they definitely did in my 30s.
Yeah. Welcome to the party. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for coming. But I think there's a lot of really young girls in this industry who don't know that. They don't know boundaries.
Yeah.
Where do we find the empowerment to kind of stand up for ourselves?
Where do you find the mentorship?
Mm-hmm.
Where do you find the models?
All of them.
Where do you find the examples for this stuff? Maybe here.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
I think the space that you've created, I think it's just what a lot of people need.
Absolutely. I hope so.
Yeah.
I really do. Nelandra, so we're going to have you on our Patreon as well.
Yeah, this is exciting.
For the honey pot, because I think that this goes beyond just like one conversation. I think there's meditations that we can do.
Yeah.
There's some breathing exercises we can do. So if you love this episode, go ahead and subscribe, of course, to the honey pod, but also join us on Patreon, because we will have From Nelandra on our Patreon.
Yeah. Maybe a little more controversial, maybe. I'm trying not to offend anybody.
We are always trying not to offend anybody, but you know what? In this day and age, you're going to offend somebody just by being you.
Sure, it's true. Yeah,
a little bit more controversial, but also just more practical in ways of like what we can do. Whether it's just tips on how to ground ourselves, how to navigate certain things in the newsroom, out of the newsroom. Nelandra is here for it all. Join our Patreon community today. There you'll find Be Well with Nelandra Anselmo and our legal expert, Jacob Medrala with Be Advised. Until next week.